Hello YouTube, my name's Nana, welcome to my channel, and yes, I am talking about Trayvon Martin. I think it's also important to talk about the response to everything surrounding the Trayvon Martin issue. And why don't we start with negative and go to positive. So there's been a lot of nastiness, a lot of ignorance, a lot of awfulness that has come out of critics and pundits and people, generally on the defense side, in response to the fact that people are upset over this verdict. They say, oh, you have to respect the verdict, and even Mark O'Mara coming out and saying, well, the people who are angry, they're just angry people. The idea that you devalue a community's response, that you devalue a large segment of the public's response, that you refuse to acknowledge it, shows a lot of arrogance, shows a lot of ignorance. Their involvement with this case, I think, it's been disappointing in a lot of ways. Even then we see Don West's daughter tweeting or Instagramming this picture, saying, we beat stupidity. Again, just a whole lot of ignorance and unawareness and stupidity coming out of you. And it's sad, you're lawyers. Yes, you did your job. You defended your client. But in my opinion, you didn't do it in a reasonable way. You didn't do it in a logical way because your arguments were entirely based around the racial profiling and character denigration of Trayvon Martin and Rachel Jeantel. And not about trying to actually prove any sort of innocence, even though you repeatedly touted that. You did not prove any sort of innocence for George Zimmerman. And yes, we should respect the verdict. It is what it is. And if we don't respect the verdict here, our law system sort of falls apart. However, that in no way means we have to be satisfied with the verdict. A lot of other people who are, criticizing people for, playing the race card, bringing up race, saying this case had nothing to do with race, that, again, to me is just horribly ignorant. If you agree with that position, my honest response to you is go educate yourself. Educate yourself as to racism and its evolution in American society, in Western society. Educate yourself as to our current institutions, because to say this case didn't have to do with race is simply ignorant. If Trayvon Martin were a young white boy, I think the chances of George Zimmerman shooting him would have been exponentially lower. He may not have shot him at all. And had he shot this young white boy, I guarantee you, I think we would have seen a lot more passion from the prosecution and a lot less passion from the defense. And I think we also would have seen the fact that George Zimmerman is Hispanic played up a whole lot more. But now certain people on the right, certain fans of the defense are trying to bring up the idea that, oh yes, George Zimmerman is Hispanic and that somehow means he can't be racist. Again, educate yourself. Because that's just horribly ignorant. The idea that there can't be racism between two non-white races is insane and stupid and ignorant and has no bearing. Racism can exist within a race itself. I just don't even understand that sort of ignorance, that you can say, oh no, a Hispanic person can't be racist against a black person, or a black person can't be racist against a Hispanic person. Do you only believe racism can come from a white person or against a white person? Because certainly there have been people trying to tout some sort of reverse racism. So I don't understand that idea. And I'm sure Fox News has been covering this in what's probably just a despicable manner. I've seen a clip of, Bill O'Reilly and someone trying to bring up the issue of crime on young black men, and Bill O'Reilly, discounting it and saying, oh, like it's not a race issue, it's just It's just the violent areas. And again, it speaks to ignorance. It may very well be willful ignorance on his part. He might know exactly what he's talking about. He might know he's very wrong. But whatever. To me, Fox is a news network that's, well, a news network used very loosely, based in bigotry and based in very old ways of thinking, based in a lot of normativity, based in a lot of the racialized history in this country, based in the sexist history in this country, based in the homophobic history of this country, in the society. So I don't see them as valid. But again, I think that's another example of some of the nastiness that has come out of this case, and the fact that people take this as an opportunity to sort of promote racism as opposed to engage in conversations about race and furthering progress of how we deal with race in this country is nasty. But then again, it serves certain people's agendas. So it is what it is. But moving on to the positive, there have been a lot of positive responses to this case. There has been a lot of support, a lot of passionate people, which I've been just so happy to see. People going out and marching and protesting, people in the governor's office in Florida right now fighting for Trayvon Martin civil rights bill, people all over social media across the country and across the world connecting to this case, connecting to the Martin family, respecting Trayvon Martin's death, respecting the parents. And I think that's so important because regardless of how you feel about this case, a young man is dead by no fault of his own. As much as the defense wants you to believe otherwise, he did nothing wrong. And he's now dead. And that should be sad. That should be, of course, it should warrant some sense of, mourning or sadness. A young man is dead. He has lost his life. He won't be able to live out the rest of his life. That's awful. It should be, regardless of how you stand on this case. And his parents are grieving. Again, that should be something you sympathize with, regardless of where you stand on this case. These parents lost their child. I think that should be simple, but at the same time, we've seen people who have somehow devalued their grief, disregarded their grief, refused to acknowledge them. To me, that just delegitimizes any sort of coverage you're giving of this issue if you refuse to at least respect the dead and respect the parents. But again, a lot of support for them, a lot of respect for them, a lot of people who are passionate about this issue and who have shown the desire to make change, which is wonderful. And I'm glad that it has pretty much all been peaceful. And the only thing that has been, violent was a small, offshoot of a protest or a march, and I think LA, that vandalized the Men's Warehouse. So the fact that everything else has been peaceful is wonderful. And I'm glad because by doing that, as we fight for change, we respect Trayvon Martin, and we respect his memory, and we respect the parents, because they are some of the most admirable people out of this whole debacle, because they have had the strength and the composure. They have dealt with this for over a year. They've been sitting in the trial for, weeks next to their son's killer, and they've only shown composure and grace. And that's wonderful. And they respect their son's memory by doing that, and they respect the memory of so many peaceful activists, throughout history. So I honestly just have so much respect for them to have been so calm when so many of us were angry. We felt this anger and so this sort of disgust in reaction to this trial, in reaction to this verdict, but throughout they have stayed strong, which is amazing. Many people's thoughts and prayers, including mine, are with them and their family. And I think that is the shining example of how to respond to this and how to channel all of our emotions and feelings in regard to this case towards positive change. Thank you for watching part 3. Make sure to like, dislike, comment, share, and subscribe. And you can continue on to part 4 tomorrow if you're watching this the day I upload, and if it's after the fact, right now. Thank you. Bye.